our thoughts create form. So our thought is like a wave, and then that wave becomes an atom, and then it becomes a thing. And then in the collective, we have these many kind of atoms and thought forms in the etheric field. And what we have to understand is that these thought forms, although we cannot see them, are still affecting us collectively. And so it's important to learn how to clear the noise in your own mind, but also clear the noise of everything around you, because we're always constantly receiving information from everything and everywhere, you know? And so what we want to do otherwise, because what starts to happen is if we don't clear the noise, we start to receive information from everything and everywhere, and we also start to receive information based on our memory. And our memory is a piece of data that has already been there. So in some ways, it's not necessarily a direct message from what I would call your soul or your guides, or because there could be many messages, right, from the aspect of ourself which is not something that is in the memory bank of our experience. It's kind of like it's basically, when you think about your intuition, it's kind of like that thing. Intuition, the way I would describe it, is that thing that you've always known. So all of us, we come here on earth, and since we were young, we always kind of knew something about ourselves. We always felt or seen ourselves do something in this world, right? We come on this planet to experience something. Our soul comes on this planet to experience something. So if something is happening in your life that is repetitive and you have resistance towards it, which is pretty much all human beings, then that's mostly one of the things that you're here to experience. And at the same time, the soul is here to fulfill a potential reality, right? And there are many potential realities, and that's why we have free will here on earth. So the purpose on maybe a spiritual level, and even just on a practical level, to clear the noise, is so that you can hear your soul. And when the soul gives you guidance, it's outside of the known, it's outside of the memory bank. So very often our human instinct is to be afraid of what we see ourselves doing here on earth. You know, it's like, I was talking to a client the other day, and she's like, I've always seen myself speaking around in front of like thousands of people. I don't know why, but I've always seen that. And let me know in the comments if you have something like that. You've always seen yourself doing something. So just take a moment to just think about that. And so when we clear the noise, that channel, that voice becomes more clear. But here's the thing, just because we hear it, it does not mean that we have sometimes the courage to go and do it. Okay? So we clear the noise and we hear the soul, and the soul will constantly speak to us, whether it's a whisper, whether it's a loud knock at the door, or it kind of takes you out, and all of a sudden you kind of have to reflect on your direction in life. Okay, sort of happens that way. So let me know in the comments if in your life you're going down a certain path and it just you had this kind of like kind of nagging feeling, and then all of a sudden you had this big knock at the door, and then all of a sudden, like, I don't know, you got sick or you got into some kind of like accident or something like that. Hopefully nothing too serious, but that's when the soul is kind of like, yeah, okay, we're sort of like helping you steer in a different direction. And the other thing it does when we clear the noise is that we as human beings, we kind of think we're like just solo here in this whole entire universe. When we have guidance from life, right, in many different forms, it could be our spirit guides, it could be nature, it could be our ancestral line from way back when, it could be Mother Earth, right? So all of these beings are conscious, and we can tune into them if we clear the noise, right? And then from there, what happens is, once we clear the noise and we can hear our souls calling, and we can hear different guides guiding us, there's an element of fear that we will never, as human beings, not experience. So one of the antidotes to that, to working with our fear, is starting to trust, right? And how do we do that? We don't do that intellectually. Well, from an embodiment practice, we do that in the body. So when you start to trust your own body, right, then you develop trust. And that's the portal of your soul. Your soul is always going to speak to you in a feeling, in a voice, in a sensation, right? And so we want to start to develop that trust, and then take action based on even the things that we are afraid of. Okay, so that's sort of the journey.